The discussions about the worst 6 stars in Arknights are as old as, well, when the new 6 stars were released. But lately, I've seen the community reach a solid agreement that Carnelian is the worst. Now at first, I didn't think much of it. I didn't have Carnelian and neither did I particularly have a soft spot towards her. But recently I managed to pull her on the Colonel Celebration banner as my new 6 star. So I decided to build Carnelian to see how bad she truly was. You know, for science. And what do I think? Okay, in all seriousness, I do genuinely think that Carnelian isn't the worst 6 star. Not even close. So let's take a proper look at Carnelian's kit and why maybe, just maybe, that she might actually be quite good. Carnelian is a phalanx caster, a caster whose main jobs are taking range damage and true AoE push damage. And by true AoE I mean they don't have a cap on how many enemies they can hit, unlike other AoE options who are usually limited by a splash radius or a number of enemies they can hit at a time. She will attack anyone and everyone who's in her range. Along with this, whenever their skills are inactive they can do 100% defense and plus 20 arts resistance, but as a downside they won't do regular attacks. Similar to Liberators, but instead of gradually increasing attack, they are practically unkillable by range damage whenever their skills are active. Along with this, all of her skills feature an overcharge mechanic, where she can effectively charge her skill twice for extra effects. Her two talents are also very simple to understand. The first one heals a big amount when her skill is activated, and it doubles when you activate its overcharge version. And her second talent makes getting to that charge state easier, with increasing her SP regen by a lot when you charge her skill for the first time. Her first skill is pretty generic, just a small attack buff while gaining a big defense increase. Now the funny thing is that the skill charge effect lets you do stuff like this.
불쌍해라. 어쩌다 온몸이 그렇게 피투성이가 됐어? 心配しないで. Get around, guys! あなたは私がお守りします.
Yeah, this skill is pretty mediocre compared to her other two skills who have significantly better use cases compared to this one, so don't use this one, please. Now, her second skill is the one I think most people would gravitate towards at first. Carnelian starts attacking a lot faster, and slows every enemy hit in range. And the charge version gives a small attack buff while turning the small slow into a bind that is double the length. Now, personally, I think this is really similar to Angelina's third skill, with both of them having decent crowd control along with pretty alright damage numbers. However, I would personally argue that Carnelian's skill is generally better for both damage and crowd control, and because Angelina's skill having a limited number of targets it can hit at a time, along with her attacking a lot slower compared to Carnelian's skill makes it worse in my opinion, with the only real thing she has over Carnelian being her increased range, which can be pretty substantial depending on the map. But map dependency isn't exactly a good way to judge an operator's strength, so Carnelian's second skill tends to be better in my opinion. Carnelian's third skill is all about raw damage numbers. It gradually increases her attack by 280%, starting at 80% and increasing it by plus 20 every second until it increases to 280% over the course of the first 10 seconds of this skill. And whenever her skill is charged, she begins to apply a special debuff effect that increases her own damage by plus 20%. Every hit stacking up to 5 times, and its debuff is applied before the damage is dealt, basically giving her an additional plus 100% damage to enemy that's unlucky enough to get stuck in her expanded range. And that's Carnelian's kit. So what are her strengths? In what cases is she a good choice to run? Does she have any synergies? Well, yes, I would say she has quite a bit of synergies compared to the other phalanx casters. Now, her strengths are pretty clear. She is pretty tanky, she has a wide AoE range, making her a great choice on stages with a lot of low to medium res trash like a good chunk of the main story, some of the sway events, and enemies with higher physical or arch damage. Meanwhile, both of her modules are also amazing choices, one increasing her survivability greatly while the other decently improves a little bit of everything about her kit. Along with this, Carnelian benefits greatly from any attack speed or attack buffs, mainly due to how her third skill is a gradual attack increase and special debuff she applies to enemies by attacking them, and around plus 30 attack speed is the threshold of Carnelian to permabind using the charged version of her second skill, and due to its fast attacking nature naturally scales a lot better with attack buffs. Also makes it so that she isn't actually a terrible choice in integrated strategies, with how little relics she needs for her damage and or crowd control to skyrocket. My favorite operator to use with Carnelian by far is Ark. Aside from the obvious synergies of phalanx casters and Ark, their skill timings also line up better compared to the other phalanx casters, making her in my opinion one of the best operators to pair with Ark. Same goes with Monster, who has similar buffs, though obviously there are some differences. Like how Ark's skill lasts 20 seconds while Monster's lasts 30. Another operator that works quite well with Carnelian is Psyla, with her third skill applying slow and her talent giving a small amount of attack speed that really matters when it comes to Carnelian in particular. Along with this, Psyla with her low SP cost means you can whip out her skill when you need it most. Insert sexual innuendo here. What else? Oh yeah, she also benefits from TT Sargon buffs, and okay, let's just get this over with. From what I have seen, there seems to be 3 core complaints about her kit. 1. Her quote-unquote lack of damage. 2. Her frailty when her skills are active. And 3. Her long skill charges of not doing anything without her skill active. So, let's start with the easiest one, her lack of damage. Now this one I don't quite understand where it came from. First of all, she has the highest attack out of all the phalanx casters. Second of all, Carnelian actually has good damage. Her third skill, while lower, charges at the DPS of almost 1200 against enemies with 50 reds. For comparison, Lyn only gets up to 733 DPS with her third skill. And her second skill deals 606 DPS, which is higher than Angelina's 462. So no, Carnelian does deal damage. With both her main skills, Carnelian still deals respectable damage, at least on the same level as the operators I mentioned. And now the second complaint. She is left vulnerable when her skill is active and... yeah man, that is the weakness of the archetype. And any situation where Carnelian fails at tanking something, the other phalanx casters fail just as hard. Why is this an issue with Carnelian specifically? It's not the operator's fault that you play like an idiot. Also, it would help if you use the fact that enemies target the last deployed operator. Maybe it's not the operator that's the worst, but rather your own skill level. And personally, I think this complaint applies to Carnelian least, mainly because both her modules do something to help with this built-in frailty. Her module X increasing both her max HP and HP gained by skill activations a ton, along with being able to keep double her defense style along with plus 10 arts resistance. Meanwhile, her Y mod gives her a minus taunt effect whenever she uses a charged version of her skills. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with Carnelian's survivability. It's just a skill issue. And now for the third one, the one that's going to take the most convincing. Her not doing anything off her skills. First of all, I have already proved that Carnelian is a great tank. Second, this is a perfect opportunity for me to get into what I think is the most overlooked attribute about her kit. Yeah, this is for sure going to take the most convincing, but let me explain. In this video, and all the others discussing this operator, don't go out of their way to cover the uncharged version of these skills. which I think is a shame because this is where I think Carnelian's true strength and fun factor lie. The uncharged version of her third skill is actually quite similar to Beastbox's first skill, except it deals a lot more damage. In fact, it's only a little bit weaker than Lynn's third skill, which, yeah, obviously Lynn's third skill will deal more damage here, but for a skill with such a low SP cost compared to Lynn, it's really impressive that you can even compare the two. And this also builds into the sort of choices you can make with this operator in particular that you cannot with other operators in the game. Do I save my skill for a more threatening wave, or do I use it to wipe out all the peons? And this on-the-spot thinking and choices are made easier with her second salve, helping you get the charged version of her skills faster, making it less punishing when you do commit to an uncharged skill. And to me, this does make up for doing less when her skills are active, because in addition, it's almost like you have two skills in one, with a really active playstyle unlike any of the Phalanx casters. She is the only 6-star Phalanx caster that has a skill like this, making her by far the most versatile Phalanx caster with a lot of room for skill expression when using her. Hell, even the uncharged version of her second skill has some uses. This has also made me think, why hasn't the larger Arknights fanbase stumbled onto this sooner? What made her seem like she was weaker? This is gonna sound really stupid, but it's that fucking dog. In my research for this video, I came across something pretty interesting when it came to looking at all the operators who have an overcharge mechanic. Most of them are either operators people already don't bother with, or are lesser skills and operators who have better options at their disposal. Well, all of them with the exception of Tequila. With this information, and him being a welfare that's easy to obtain, makes it pretty clear to say Tequila was meant to be a sort of tutorial for charge skills. But with how the Liberator trait works and the fact that Tequila has a charge 20 SP skill twice, it basically conditions the player to just always wait till the skill is fully charged. Which is terrible, cause at that point why wouldn't you just have a normal skill? So yeah, Tequila serves as a legitimately bad tutorial for charge skills, which in consequence resulted in the operator whose whole gimmick is charge kills to be seen as way weaker as a result. It really sucks, but there isn't much I can do about it now except release this video to the masses. That about wraps up my overall analysis on an operator that's criminally overlooked and primarily overhated, that I don't think is that bad. Some stages have very little enemies, making AoE redundant. Fair enough. Some stages don't have any ranged enemies where Phalanx caster trait is all that useful. Fair enough. But as long as you have game sense and use the skill of the AoE operator when there's a lot of enemies in range, shocker, she actually becomes quite good. She isn't meta, of course. Again, I placed her in B tier. For what a niche subclass Phalanx casters actually are, I think this was a surprisingly deep operator that has a lot more intrigue than what we see on the surface. And honestly, this makes me think of what other operators are out there in the game that I could potentially love if I just gave them the light of day. Honestly, if you're going to take anything from this video, let it be this. If you've already got a decently built account, there's nothing stopping you with experimenting with operators who might look janky or underperforming on the surface. Who knows, you might just really enjoy using some of these lesser operators.